This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to topcatteamsales.com. That's topcatteamsales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
What's up, everybody? DocNJock, episode 150. Thank you for downloading another episode on our fine network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
I know that you were at the baseball game the other night, so you didn't get to catch the absolute ass whipping that Argentina laid on the United States.
It was no doubt about it. I knew that before the game even started, my friend.
It was embarrassing. And we don't ever talk soccer because we want you to listen, but I like soccer, you like soccer, some people out there like soccer. I absolutely love international soccer. Argentina massacred the United States, and it wasn't even close. Like, it is amazing at how good they are and what it actually looks like to be a dominant, contending team, a team that can go out there and you know that they have a shot at winning every major championship in international soccer. The United States, it's like sitting there and wrestling your little brother. He's just too weak, too small, too slow, too frail, and can't get it done. It was embarrassing.
When you go up against arguably the top team in the entire world, you got to play your absolute best. And I thought that the key would be to score first, but everyone's argument has been that Bradley can't really handle the midfield. He needs to get out of there. And people are starting to talk now that Jurgen Klinsmann is not the guy. They need a new voice. And I truly believe that. I think they need to go out now. He got him to a certain point. He's the what you call a stopgap traditionally. And now go out there, get an Argentinian, get a Brazilian, get an assistant from the Spanish team, bring him up here and get us to the next level. He stagnated. I do believe that this is probably the peak for him, what Jurgen Klinsmann brings to the table. So, hey, there's no shame in losing to Argentina. They're the best team in the world.
Is it really, though, the coaching? Is it maybe more a little bit, we just don't have the caliber of players? I mean, the United States, we're so blessed that you can play any sport that you want here. And down the line of sports that you want to play and that you generally get pushed upon or can make money at, soccer's probably the fifth one. I mean, I know everybody grows up playing soccer as a child, essentially. It's one of those sports that are just there, but that's your stopgap. It's your bridge before you go on and you play football, before you go and you play hockey, before you go play basketball, before you hit that growth spurt and you just become a monster, before you go play baseball. It's like soccer's like the fifth or sixth sport down the line. And I mean, honestly, if we had guys like LeBron James out there, talented players like a Patrick Kane or something, guys who are fast, have good foot and hand-eye coordination, I think it'd be a little bit different. But all of our best athletes are playing other sports. Don't you think that's probably the biggest issue with this? I mean, look, Clint Dempsey's done a great job for this team. I like some of the younger talent that they have. They have a couple kids that look like they will make an impact in the very near future. I just don't think we measure up. And I don't even know if it's coaching. Like, you're right. Klinsmann, for all the good that he's done, I feel like he's done some bad as well, because he's come in, he's basically alienated the MLS, alienated a lot of players, and has at times, I think, been overly harsh, if that's a fair critique and criticism of him. But for all of that, he got them to this point. He got them to where they could now, they're going to play for third place, essentially, in the Copa Americana Centenario. So did I get all that right? Really long, man.
The
really
Copa
long.
America, man. Come on,
really,
get it right.
Really, really long. It's just,
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I'm not even tuned into
It's
that.
frustrating. It is frustrating if you are a fan of international soccer and you're a fan of the United States.
No, definitely. You should be frustrated because it's like when you go up against the best, you want to see where you measure up, and obviously they don't measure up. For me, I'm watching the Euros. That's where the best soccer is being played right now.
So good.
It's great
So
soccer, right?
good.
So, and you said it. We don't measure up because in Europe and in South America, the youngest athletes that play soccer start at 3, 4. They get into these academies and they get trained basically to do that. And so their sole focus as an athlete is to play soccer. It's like everything to them. Whereas here in the States, you got a lot of different options. You got to choose from like 6 different sports. So what they really need to do really is the MLS kind of bastardized soccer in terms of making a playoff, having different divisions. Just go into what the Europeans do. Create, a stronger minor league system. Allow a team like maybe Detroit City FC to maybe get into the MLS. That'd be kind of sweet, wouldn't it? If you don't measure up in the MLS, then you get relegated. But if you're paying $50, $100 million, $200 million to get into it, you're not going to get relegated. So America has kind of said, no, we're going to buck the real system of soccer, relegation, playoffs. We're going to do our own thing, and we're just going to buck the trends. And that's why...
And they totally play at an opposite schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 180 degrees opposite of what everybody else in the world does. And you want to match up and compete with them, but you do it so different. You think your way's better. It's not.
It's not. Now, for me, I want to definitely tell you about my experience because it was very interesting. I basically had like an ADHD experience watching a sporting event. So I take my little nephew to the Tigers' second game versus the Mariners. JV's on the mound versus Paxton. It's a great pitching matchup. And for the first 6 innings, it's a great pitching duel. You got JV doing his thing, getting outs, getting out of key jams. Paxton throws hard. He got out of the first couple innings with relatively no problems. But for me, I just started getting distracted. And I kind of found myself, making sure the nephew was okay, making sure he was cool, eating, having fun, talking to him a little bit about, minor leagues, talking to him about Rondon, stuff like that. But I found myself...
What is the minor leagues, by the way?
The place you go where you practice.
Where you practice. It was the best Snapchat I got. It was incredible.
I found myself kind of looking around, checking out the commercialization of Comerica Park. And if you really just look around, it's everywhere. Jack links this, DraftKings sponsors this, all over the walls. It's all over. And it was a little bit overwhelming. And then I caught myself getting distracted by the patrons behind me and to my left. The people to my left were the chronic Snapchat selfie people that were just like snapping themselves every time and taking like 5 at a time. Even my little nephew was like, they're weird. And he was saying a little too loud so they could hear him, but they just kept taking pictures of themselves, redoing it, analyzing their pictures. And so that was to my left.
Any hot chicks?
Yeah, around going down the stands.
Oh.
But right behind me, they were just talking about the basics. Like you had the amateur person, the amateur young lady who was like, what's good batting average? Oh, who's pitching? Justin Verlander? Asking these ridiculous questions. So I'm getting distracted. And I was like, wow, it was one of the first times ever where I went to watch a sporting event and I barely watched the action at hand, just kind of taking in the environment. I was just telling myself, wow, I'm really relaxed. It was comfortable. But in terms of watching the actual event, couldn't do it. I wasn't into it.
How old? Zuzu's what, 6 now?
Just turned 6, June 10th.
Okay, so you took a 6-year-old to the ball game. So you have to sit there and you have to kind of entertain him, right? He's generally into sports, so that's not really an issue. You can sit there and the game's going to go on. He's going to have questions, of course. But when you take a child or somebody younger to an event like that, isn't your first priority entertaining them and making sure they're taken care of? Did you find yourself doing that more? And so you're a little bit more disconnected from the action, what's going on at the game. Like if me and you were to go, we just sit there with peanuts and beer and we just watch the game and we talk about what's going on with the game. With a 6-year-old, a little bit more like, all right, so this guy's up, he's really good, this, that, explaining little nuances to him to kind of educate him and keep him informed, right?
Yeah, definitely. But he's the one asking the questions. He's great. He wants to know who's doing what. He's really fascinated with the birthdays, the ages, but he knows what's going on, and he's really attentive. And he didn't ask too many questions, but he entertains himself. He just wants to eat, watch the game, make sure and cheer, and he's really into baseball. He's got that laser focus. Like he was looking at the counts and was wondering when there would be a strikeout, when there be like why was there a wild pitch. He wants to know why a lot. Why James McCann let up a wild pitch, why did this happen, that happened, why did Miguel get it into an inning-ending double play, stuff like that. But he's very into baseball, and that's his singular focus. He's really locked in. Whereas myself, I kind of just got caught up in the
So you're the one
obvious.
with the ADD, huh?
It never really has happened. I was usually a guy that would really focus in. I was definitely trying to stay focused by tweeting a lot, but I really got distracted. It was one of the first times it's ever happened to me, but I really kind
The
of caught into it.
6-year-old has an attention span of a 35-year-old, and
Exactly.
the adult is like a 6-year-old.
Exactly. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever experienced. And so I got to get out to more baseball games because I really was kind of overwhelmed by the number of ads everywhere, the number of things that are sponsored by things. I just thought to myself, wow, this is where we're at. Everything is commercialized, even at a nice ballpark. I kind of would like it to be a little bit stripped down. Take away. There's signs everywhere. You got DraftKings and FanDuel signs everywhere. You got everything sponsored. You got the Miller Park. It just hits you if you look at it. Everything is they're trying to find every little nook and cranny to put something. And I'm like, wow, I do that too, but I don't know to that degree. But it really hit me yesterday. So it was interesting.
If you look at it, running a baseball team is very expensive. You look at the Tigers' payroll. Mike Ilitch has to make that money back somehow. So if he's got a 3-foot by 3-foot spot and you can slap a placard on it or your logo on it, he's going to charge you for it, and he's going to take that money and reinvest it into his ball club. If not there, he's going to go put it into Little Caesars Arena, which is the worst name ever. So it's all about making money, man.
Yeah, next time you go, check out Comerica Park and really look around and see what is actually in the ballpark, around the stands and things like that. You will be quite surprised at the number of companies they're actually working with and have deals with. It's very fascinating, very interesting stuff. So, cause it's happened, do you feel happy for the city of Cleveland? Lots of people are giving props and applause to Cleveland for ending their drought. For me personally, I was like, really? I don't care. I'm like, you know what? Good for them. I was entertained on Sunday, Game 7, the most watched NBA game in ABC history. I was into it, and it was actually a very close game, and that's all I asked for. I didn't have a rooting interest really seriously either way. I just wanted a great classic basketball game, and that's what we got. Kyrie hit the big shot. He stepped up, and it was a great NBA Finals, one that you could definitely argue is ranks up there. It was a good Game 7, maybe a mediocre series.
I don't really care who won. I think that there are storylines built into how this ended. I think now there's this giant paradigm shift with LeBron. Everybody wants to talk about how great he is. Let's be honest. He's now cemented his legacy as one of the top 5 NBA players of all time. I think you can argue that point, and I think you'll come out on top. I don't think he's Michael, and I don't like the comparisons, and I'll get into that in a second. But on the Golden State side, I think it totally discredits their 73-9 record. I think it was a great regular season record, but I think they crumbled in the playoffs. And I think that's a huge black mark on them, because the one thing that you can say is Michael Jordan's team that won 72 wins, probably the greatest of all time. They went on, they won the championship. You could have had a discussion if Golden State would have won it. Is the 73-9 team better than the team that won 72? Now you can't have that because Golden State looks soft like marshmallows. They crumbled. As far as LeBron goes, everybody wants to compare him to Michael Jordan. There's no comparison. He's not the same player. If you want to compare LeBron to anybody, the guy who he is most closely like, it's Magic Johnson. LeBron James is a guy who can play basically all 5 positions on the floor at a time. He's apt at bringing the ball up and carrying it. He's looking to pass first, shoot second. He doesn't have that natural killer instinct like Michael Jordan did. Michael Jordan wanted to destroy you. He wanted to humiliate you and embarrass you. LeBron just wants to go have a good time and win, very much like Magic Johnson. What LeBron James has done, especially in that Game 7 and throughout the course of this NBA Finals, was incredible. Took the Cleveland Cavaliers from 3-1 down. No team in the NBA has ever done any such thing. Took them, won the championship. On top of it, he led the entire Finals in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. I mean, every statistical category, he led them. The biggest issue with LeBron James that I think irritates everybody and makes everybody so upset is you've seen his greatness and what he can give you in basically those final 3 games of the NBA Finals. He doesn't do it night in, night out. And you don't even have to do it night in, night out. But in the course of an 82-game regular season, I need to see it at least 74 out of 82 games. You can take a couple games off. That's fine. It's the NBA. You all take games off, especially those back-to-backers. Those are getaway days. You're going to lose those generally. But he doesn't show that killer instinct, that drive, that hunger to be the best. It looks almost like he's out there just kind of coasting around on a scooter or a skateboard even.
Well, I would disagree with you in your comment saying that he doesn't have that drive. I think now when you enter your late 20s and your early 30s, you kind of save it. And you got to remember, the Cleveland Cavaliers were basically counting on LeBron to have a lot of influence. So what he did was he kind of knew when to kick it into gear. And you got to also remember, a key factor in that series was, and what allowed LeBron to have a little bit more freedom was when Bogut got hurt. Because what would happen was whenever LeBron tried to get into the hole and the Cavaliers as a team tried to get into the hole to get easy baskets, Bogut was a huge defensive presence. And so that's what teams do is they use help defense, they switch off and try to get those matchups. You got to remember, teams nowadays focus on defense and focus on how to stop LeBron. Or you go with the attitude, let LeBron get his, let's stop everybody else. So you have two different defensive paradigms. But you can't discredit the fact that Bogut got hurt, and it allowed LeBron to kind of have a little bit more of an opportunity to do what he wanted. And then you saw the emergence of potential now budding superstar Kyrie Irving. This is a guy that stepped up later in the series, had games of 40 points, and was not afraid to shoot. And now, based on this series, you can now openly have the debate. Do you think if Kyrie and Kevin Love were healthy last year, that Golden State might have not even won it at all? I do believe that if Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were successful last year, didn't get hurt, and it wasn't just LeBron versus Golden State, it would have been a hell of a better series, and Cleveland might have ended up the winner. Then we might be looking at a back-to-back situation.
I think it's possible. Kevin Love came up real small, I think, in most of these games throughout the finals here. There were times where he was a complete ghost out there. Yeah, Game 7, he looked like a monster. He was all over the place defending. He didn't score a ton of points, but he did grab a number of rebounds. On top of that, he made it very difficult on Steph Curry, who, you want to talk about a ghost. Where did he go? The league's MVP doesn't even show up in the finals. And you can say he's hurt, he's this, he's that. He looked atrocious. He played horrible, made bad decisions, led this team right into the ground. And I think that's a bigger indictment on Steph Curry and what he isn't. I mean, you got to realize he was the only unanimous NBA MVP
in the regular season.
Ever. He was the first guy. Michael Jordan never even got anything like that.
But don't you think a guy that gets the most threes in history,
small?
Don't you think he deserved it? He had a great regular season.
He had a great regular season.
Yeah.
Great regular season. Where'd you go in the playoffs? Where? Don't blame this on that knee injury. I seen him doing insane dunks in pregame warmups leading into the finals. So let's not talk about how you're hurt. He made bad decisions down the stretch, took horrible shots, and really put his team in a bad spot, much like Draymond Green did by getting suspended.
So you don't give Cleveland's defense any credit for stopping Steph Curry. No credit to the defense. I think Ty Lue is underrated in that he really showed what Midwest basketball and Eastern Conference basketball is all about. Good switches, good pick and rolls on the offense, allow your team to really play solidly and give yourself a chance to win.
I think Ty Lue was riding
LeBron's?
riding passenger in that two-cart motorcycle sitting right next to LeBron. LeBron was like, "Look, coach, you just sit there, you be the figurehead, and this is what we're going to do." That was, come on. But look, LeBron James was the coach, the general manager, and the best player on the floor. That's exactly what that was. The only thing he didn't do was cut the checks. That was Dan Gilbert's job, honestly.
Okay, you're a no credit given jock on this episode 150. I give a little bit more credit to Ty Lue in that he was able to really form a bond with LeBron James based upon their background. And the reason why Blatt was injured...
I would hope so. Because LeBron sat there and pushed Blatter out and sat there and basically worked his magic to get Ty Lue in there.
Imagine getting fired. Blatt gets fired when his record is 30-11 in the season.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
It's insane.
Ty Lue comes in there. He's got a tough job, but he showed he was a winner and he was up to the challenge. I mean,
his tough job was not making LeBron mad. That was his tough job.
First time ever a team comes back from a 3-1 series deficit. They come back to win. And to talk about LeBron's place in history, I do believe that he's obviously moved into the top 10. He might have already been there. But this is a guy that, remember, we're talking about it currently. He's a top 10 NBA talent. And remember, his career's not over. He's got 2 to 3 more productive years in his prime, and then we don't know what kind of player he's going to be in his late 30s. This is a situation where LeBron's greatness could be measured not only on the court, but a situation where he may go to other teams and try to resurrect them. He's won his first NBA title. Then he came home and won it for Cleveland. Now he may try to go, assemble a super team for his friends. If he does stuff like that and he wins multiple titles with multiple teams, then you could potentially say he's top 5 all time. But I think it's too early to start talking about where he ranks all time. Obviously, he's a great NBA talent. This is a guy who's working hard, and he's a guy that has had success, and he shut up his haters. I think the purpose of this season was to come back to Cleveland, bring home a title, and shut up his critics. This is a guy that can do it wherever he goes. He's got a game that can continue to evolve. This guy can get better. To talk about his greatness, I would say that this is a guy that you could look to. 1 or 2 more titles, you could put him up there, top 5, and he's already in the argument as the best forwards in all of the NBA. But I guess the closest argument some people are making is, would you currently, at this point in time, rank LeBron ahead of Magic Johnson?
Yes. In my book, LeBron James is the second best player all time, and that is behind Michael Jordan. All right. If you look at what he's done with the cast that he had surrounding him in Cleveland, because you want to go ahead and you want to crown Kyrie Irving as a budding superstar. I'm not willing to do that. I think it was basically LeBron and a bunch of other guys, especially a guy like Kevin Love, who showed that he was great when he played in Minnesota, comes to Cleveland and struggles to find his role, his niche, and disappears for many games during the finals. If you look over the course of history, number 2 to me was always Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was a killer. Kobe had Shaq for most of his career. When they were winning championships, he had Shaq. Then it was probably Magic. Magic had Kareem. You want to put Kareem up there, you can put Kareem up there. Kareem had Magic. You know what I'm saying? Larry Bird had a really good cast surrounding him as well. So that's kind of how mine played out. LeBron had who? He had Kyrie Irving. That was his next best guy that he could lean on. And I'm not ready to crown Kyrie Irving as some great superstar, some wonderment. I mean, the guy's a 3-time NBA champion. He's a 3-time NBA Finals MVP, 4-time most valuable player. These are all things that only Michael Jordan has done. It's insane what he has done. And what he did when he faces an elimination game is incredible. And what he did in that Game 7, absolutely outstanding. And what he did over the course of the NBA Finals by leading in all statistical categories, insane. And probably his best play was that block where he basically pinned the ball up against the glass, because that right there sucked the entire air out of Golden State. They had nothing left after that.
That's a marquee play, huh?
And just dagger right to their heart, So he's number 2 in my book. I feel like he's going to get another championship, maybe 2 more. But being able to take a team from a 3-1 deficit, go on the road twice, win in somebody else's home court, and just dominate the way that you dominated, that's impressive. Things that you've only seen Michael Jordan do. And you haven't even seen Michael Jordan do that.
See, I would rank him maybe 4th or 5th. I would go definitely Michael Jordan, then Kobe, then Magic, then maybe LeBron, number 4. That's where I would rank him right now. And I do believe he's got the potential to get up there to number 3 or number 2 with more titles. Now, the question everyone's talking about, and I don't know why it would come out and he would leak this so soon after the title. Maybe at least wait a week. Stephen A. Smith didn't even wait 5 seconds when the series was done to sprinkle it out there that LeBron could potentially want to go out to L.A., because, maybe reading into the fact that LeBron's building a home out there, that he might go to the Lakers, he might be courted by the Clippers, and that he kind of wants to assemble this, he wants to bring everybody that has not won a title in a while and his old boys to a team. And some people were speculating that it could be the Clippers, and it could be something where Carmelo, Dwayne Wade go to the Clippers and build this super team with CP3. I would say for LeBron that he's definitely going to sign a series of 1-year deals. And if he wants to go elsewhere, go elsewhere. But at least I would say try to defend the title, because I think your best chance to win it all again would be with the combination of him, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving. But you got a situation now where people might think that Love might be leaving. J.R. Smith now already announced, I believe on Tuesday, that he's going to be a free agent and just test the waters. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. But do you think LeBron is going to test the waters and potentially not be in Cleveland in the 2016 season?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. He's already come out and said that he doesn't want to leave Cleveland. I don't know, man. The way that guy is and the things that he does things for all sorts of different reasons. I mean, his kids are already enrolled in a school out in L.A., so that has you scratching your head. Like, what's going on there? He says he doesn't want to leave Cleveland, but we've seen this before. He's done it before with the decision. I don't want to leave Cleveland, but I'm going to take my talents to South Beach. Okay, great. So I don't want to leave Cleveland, but I'm going to take my talents to the left coast. Okay. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, basically, he wants to put together the cast from Space Jams. Like, every NBA All-Star, come play with me. We'll all have $10 million deals, and even the 12th man on the bench, he'll be a superstar, and we'll just dominate and roll. It's really weird, man. You would think that a guy with his talent, his ability, would be more driven for his legacy and more for what type of dynasty he can create. Instead, what he wants to do is he wants to go play basketball with his pals, which, hey, I mean, you can do it, do what you want. But I know if I had the ability that he had and I was a player of his caliber, it would be, what is my legacy going to be? What can I leave? How can I leave a lasting mark and my lasting impression on the NBA? You know, what can I do for Cleveland to elevate my city? You know, everybody, as a child, you always wished that you could sit there and you could be the hometown hero. You could be the little boy who sat there, scored the game-winning goal, had the game-winning basket for whatever your home team was. In this case, he brought a championship to Cleveland. He did that. They haven't won in over 50 years. They were absolute garbage. They were just a hot fire by the lake. That's what they were. Brings them a championship, and what now? Why don't you try to bring some of your boys, some of your people to Cleveland and sit there and build your dynasty there? Build your legacy there. Why would you sit there and go globetrotting and play on multiple teams and multiple markets and win championships there? You're almost like you're a roaming nomad. Makes no sense. I'd be more worried about my legacy and my mark that I'm going to leave on the NBA.
Okay, so now you see that Cleveland has won it. Likely, if LeBron is back, if they can assemble a really reasonable team, then Cleveland's going to be the marquee #1 team in the East. So now you look to the Detroit Pistons and you go, okay, what do they got to do? Who is the guy late in the game? Because they do have the makings of a strong defensive team, a team that can light up and get hot. Now you look, you go, would you bring in a J.R. Smith from Cleveland to Detroit? He's a guy, in theory, he's what you're looking for, but he comes with a little bit too much baggage. And I know, despite the fact he was a crying baby at the press conference, I still think he's got too many personality issues. But in theory, that's the kind of guy you want when he's playing well, a guy that can spot up and shoot the three. So you look at the Pistons, you go, okay, can Andre Drummond be that guy late in games to take over and dominate? Is he going to be a guy that's going to improve if he gets a max deal? And now you look to the draft, people are wondering, well, you just made a move, you shipped off Spencer Dinwiddie, so you're kind of not going to go with Jackson and Steve Blake. So I'm kind of thinking maybe they may look to the Notre Dame point guard Jackson at 18. Maybe you draft Jackson and combine it with a player and move up and get a veteran point guard. Or you look to maybe take a guy that's ready like a Denzel Valentine if he's there. So the Pistons have, when you look at it, I don't think they're close. I think their next goal now is to get to become a top 4 seed in the East, win some rounds. That's their next step. You're not going to see, I don't think, you're going to see with whatever moves they make, unless it's a blockbuster and you somehow get maybe a Kevin Love or you get, a Durant to miraculously come to Detroit. It's not going to happen, but we all can dream.
I was thinking about that today while I was at the gym.
What dream guy you want here?
Well, I was like, they were showing all these different teams that are in the bidding for Kevin Durant. And I'm like, why not us? Like, I know that we're not a destination. I know that Detroit's not a destination for NBA players, especially when you've got states like Texas and Florida where they don't charge a sales tax and you don't get taxed on your income. I get it, all right? I understand it. So your money goes a little bit further there. But why not us? Why not? We got money. We can spend it. You add a piece like a Kevin Durant to this lineup, I think it's that much better. And I think instantly they're challenging for a championship. Honestly, if you can get a superstar like that, you're in the hunt. You're in the mix. And you need to be talked about as a legit contender. It bothers me that they're never mentioned and that Stan Van Gundy, he's done a great job working with what he has. And he's built this team in a great way. But I don't know why we can't be out there trying to get a guy like that. Why can't we go out and try to get a Kevin Durant? So what? You swing, you miss. Who cares?
Try.
Who cares? Right, exactly. Who cares? It doesn't matter that you swung and missed. At least you were sitting there and you were up to the plate. That's all that matters.
We've been reading our guys that maybe the Pistons may be taking in the draft. I know it's really kind of one of those situations where it could be a number of guys, half a dozen guys.
It could be anybody. But all the mock drafts that I'm seeing, it's kind of had me scratch my head like, well, what's going on here? What's going on here? And then some news came out yesterday. Denzel Valentine has basically fallen in every mock draft that I've seen. And now this could just be speculation, just whatever. The thing is, apparently he has an issue with his knee. He might need some transformers to make that better, a Destructicon and a Constructicon to sit there and rebuild that bad Babylary.
No, I would go with the guy from the $6 Million Man. That dude was sweet.
Yeah, right.
Steve Austin, the original. Did you ever watch that show?
Yes.
That was one of the early shows I got into. You know what I really liked? Not the show in general. I liked when they had the intro and they do like they'd open up his leg and you see the computers on the inside. Right. The $6 Million Man.
So if Denzel's there, dude, I'm taking Denzel. Honestly, because He's a player very similar to a guy like LeBron James, play all 5 positions if you need him. He can carry the ball up. So he plays defense. He's a guy, he would fit perfectly into what Stan Van Gundy does. So if he's there, I'm taking him. But other than that,
so what are you really?
There's a number of guys that could go. I mean, you're hearing about guys from Australia that they could possibly take. You're hearing about guys from Serbia that they could take. It's insane. Any number of point guards that they could take anybody at this point, because they're one of the few teams that has their top 6 or 7 guys coming back to this team. What they're looking for right now, by all accounts, is just a bench player, somebody who can come in and make an impact off the bench. And which is a great spot to be in if you're the Pistons. That's incredible to be in.
So what's your realistic expectation for the 2016 Pistons? Are they close to challenging for a title? Do you feel like that there's going to be just a natural evolution of Reggie Jackson, of Andre Drummond, that they're going to be a team that just shows up, and with further coaching and further understanding of SVG system, that with additional pieces and the draft, that this is a team that could contend? Or is it realistic to say their goal should be to get top 4, top 5 seed and win a round in the playoffs?
I think they're in that 4 to 6 range. I think that should be where the expectations are. A 4 to 6 seed next season. You have to have that natural evolution. Reggie Jackson has to take that next step. Andre Drummond's got to figure some things out at the free throw line. You can't be a liability for your team down the stretch. You are too important of a piece in this puzzle to sit there and have to sit on the bench for long periods of time because you can't hit a free throw. And you don't even have to hit all the free throws. You just got to hit about half of them. Shoot 50%, man. Just be a little bit of a lethal combination at the line. You'll be fine. I think Tobias Harris was probably the best move that they made. I think he solidifies them as being a team that will challenge in the playoffs. Maybe not for a championship, but they're going to be a tough out. I think he was the big free agent acquisition that this team was looking for this season, this offseason. They got it early. It was a gift that they ended up getting. I think that they're set up really nicely. They're going to have to do something with the draft. Like I said, if Denzel's there, I'm taking him because I think he fits in. He'll make an immediate impact off the bench. He'll play defense. He'll help out. He'll spell guys when you need a guy spelled. And I think that the more he plays and the more he gets accustomed to the NBA game, he might actually turn into a star if his knee holds up. And what you're looking for right now is you're looking for about 5 or 6 good years out of him. And if you can get that, I think you're going to be okay.
All right, let's keep our fingers crossed. It was a nice NBA championship series. It's good for Cleveland, good for them. They ended a 52-year drought, I believe, and good for them. Whoop-de-doo. Now I'm turning my attention basically because, when you thought about Cleveland, you thought about drought. And stay with us in a round of Jock Jams. We're going to maybe potentially look at Detroit sports and potentially, are we in for a deep drought? Stay with us. We're going to take a quick timeout, give love to one of our sponsors, and announce a great contest on DocNJock, episode 150, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc here, I want to tell you about a great sponsor, Fanatic U. Since the beginning of the project, we've had great success with our sponsors, and one of our favorites is Fanatic U. And what they've done, they've allowed DocNJock to have a great contest. And here it is. Jared Saltalamacchia will be at the Brighton store Monday, June 27th. He's going to do a signing at the Brighton location. I was talking to our friends at Fanatic U, and they've said that the Brighton store has just taken off. Lots of great people going in there, shopping, getting all their needs for Detroit sports. And so Jared Saltalamacchia, Detroit Tiger, backup catcher, a guy with a lot of key home runs, and a former World Series champion, will be out there Monday, June 27th, 6 o'clock. And here at DocNJock, we make it happen. We try to take care of our supporters. Because you've given us so much, we always try and work to give back. So from the podcast, we're going to give away 2 VIP experiences, meaning that you're going to get a chance to meet Jared Saltalamacchia, get right up to the front of the line, get there early. You'll get a chance to get a signed baseball, meet one of your heroes, meet a member of the 2016 Detroit Tiger team, Jared Saltalamacchia. And 2 ways to enter. All you got to do, first of all, follow Detroit Podcast and tweet Salty to either at Detroit Podcast or at Fanatic U Sports. The more times you tweet Salty to us, the more chances you get to enter. Also, throughout the next couple games, we have a big series versus Cleveland ahead. I definitely started it in the series versus the Mariners. Use the hashtag FanaticU in any tweet that you send, and you'll be entered. So 2 ways to enter. Look for us at Detroit Podcast. Tweet Salty to at Detroit Podcast or Fanatic U Sports. or use the hashtag FanaticU. Get entered. We'll pick 2 individuals to have a VIP experience, meet Jared Saltalamacchia, get a signed baseball, and have a good old time. And that's what we can do here at the Detroit Podcast. We hope you take advantage of it, and I look forward to potentially hanging out with the crew at Fanatic U on Monday. Get a chance to meet Adam and I, see the guys that are running the ship and having a good old time, bringing you great contests and great fun.
Better get to tweeting.
Better get to tweeting. Yes, sir. Now back to Doc and Jock, episode 150.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah, that's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, let you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
Cruising right along. Thank you for sticking with us, and I really hope that we get a chance to get some good interaction, and I really am thankful that Fanatic U allowed us really to give away this opportunity, and it should be fun.
We've had a beautiful partnership with those guys.
They're fun guys.
Fanatic U does an incredible job and does a lot of great things and allows us to do a lot of great things with them. So hats off, applause to them.
Very much so. And that's what it's about, is that we built this podcast network not only to have fun, rap about sports, but to allow people that are big fans of Detroit sports to have experiences that they normally would not get to. And if we can be conduits to that, that's what we'll always fight for. We'll try our absolute best to have great fan experiences for those that support us. All right, you've waited. This is what we call Jock Jams. Well, it seems like the exodus out of Detroit is continuing. The Red Wings are the latest victims. Pavel Datsyuk made it official in an announcement at Orchard Lake St. Mary's High School. He said that, I'm done. He's now no longer a member of Detroit Red Wings, retiring from the NHL in order to go play in Russia in the KHL. What's your reaction now that the news broke? Is there really anybody to blame for this situation? And what's your take on Pavel Datsyuk wrapping it up in his career in the NHL?
I wasn't shocked by the announcement. I think we all expected this to be coming down the line, especially with as long as it took. I mean, this was something that was supposed to be discussed in, I believe, early June, and it basically took up until middle of last week for it to come out, or actually this past weekend to come out. So, not really surprised by it. Upset at a lot of different people in this. I mean, there's a lot of people at fault for what happened. Pavel Datsyuk's number one. You know, he signed the contract. He's the one who's making the decision to leave. Now this team is getting stuck with a $7.5 million salary cap because of it. Puts them in a very, very tough spot. Ken Holland being the one who offered Pavel Datsyuk the contract, instead of sitting there talking to him and kind of figuring out where his head and his heart's at, instead of doing a 1 year or a year-by-year deal, kind of what Steve Yzerman and Nick Lidstrom did, and now you're on the hook for that $7.5 million, that's an issue. Huge issue right there, all right? And the guy who's probably most to blame, Pavel Datsyuk's agent at the time, he comes to Ken Holland and says, hey, we want a 5-year deal somewhere in the neighborhood of about $7.5 million. And Kenny's like, you know what? Doing some math in his head. He's like, that seems like a long time. Who knows if he's going to be here for that long? And with all these rules that we have with the new CBA, how about a 3-year deal? We'll do a 3-year deal, and then after that, maybe we'll go year by year. Pavel says, all right, sure, great, no big deal. Signs that contract. A week to 10 days later, Pavel comes into Ken Holland's office and says, I want to be done after this year. And Kenny's like, well, there's an issue here, because now we're on the hook for, I believe at that time, it was $15 million. That was what the cap hit was going to be, spread across 2 years. And Kenny's like, that's not going to work for us. And there's no way that they could go back and redo that contract. So in the end, that agent, who was then soon released, because I don't believe he let Pavel Datsyuk understand what was going on and knew the full extent to how he was going to hinder this team, he's probably most at fault in this. But Pavel Datsyuk's screwing this team, and I'm just going to tell you how it is. He's screwing this team. That's a lot of money. You're now putting Ken Holland in a difficult spot where he's come out, and he doesn't sound confident at all that he can trade this contract. And if he does have to trade the contract, he's got to add a couple pieces to it to sit there and move it. The pieces that were discussed that he might possibly move, a Palkinen or a Yuriko, I don't mind that he moves those guys. I don't think in the long term it's going to hurt this team. But if you're moving a contract that's bad, At some point, you probably have to take on a bad contract somewhere along the lines. It's just the way it works out. Looking forward to next year, they've got some money. They do have some money, and especially if they can sit there and alleviate the $7.5 million, and there's some talk that they might be able to sit there and move a guy like Jimmy Howard. He's willing to be traded if that's what they want to do. Right there just frees up a ton of money for this team. You can then go out and you can get in the sweepstakes for Steven Stamkos. You can get into a conversation with adding much more talent to this team. There are some top-line defensemen out there that you can go and get. What will have the most effect on this team going forward is how Ken Holland manages this and what he can do with this $7.5 million. He's got to get out from underneath it. He's got to figure a way out. However you got to package it, however you got to sell it, do it and get some talent in here, because this team, the talent isn't rising to the top the way we all thought it was. We've always had stacked pipelines, always been that way. And when the talent's getting here, it's not making the impact that's needed. So if there are guys out there who you can go and you can pay a pretty penny for, pay it. Get them in here. Become a challenge again. Become a team that's going to sit there and contend for a cup. Don't just kind of back into the playoffs anymore. You got to do things a little bit different. It's a salary cap world. You got to do things different.
All right, now, the Detroit Lions made a little bit of news, again, with the cheerleaders. They've decided to kind of put out, some aesthetics in terms of what the uniforms may look like. Definitely this concept of the color rush uniforms are very interesting to look at. Jerry Mallory did a podcast looking at that, the Hindsight 20, which you can download every Monday on our fine network. But would you prefer the Lions to wear red color rush unis or all black color rush unis? It's very interesting. I wasn't really a fan of any of them. I was just like, you know what? I liked what they wore last year. I was pretty much a fan of it. Once in a while, you go to the throwbacks like they used to do on Thanksgiving, or you go to, those special uniforms, the third alternate uniforms. These color rush unis, I'm not, in terms of it, for me personally, it's just bleh.
If I had to pick, it would be all black. Black head to toe. Black jersey, black bottoms, black socks. If you want to sit there and put some Honolulu blue stripes in there, knock yourself out. But all black. I think all black would look sweet. The red, I don't really know how that would work. If I'm watching this on TV, if it's a Thursday night, because that's when these color rush games happen. If it's a Thursday night and I'm watching this, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, who's this red team? That doesn't scream Detroit Lions to me. The black would resonate a little bit more with some blue piping somewhere in it. Maybe the numbers are a little bit blue. Something. You can come up with something creative, but all black. I would love the all black look. However, was it last year when was it Arizona and the Jets? I think when they played, it was like the Christmas game. Or no, it was the Bills. The Bills had the all red ones. Those were actually really sweet. But it was like the Bills red, so it made sense. And the green ones were pretty sweet too for the Jets. They looked like the green machines. So I like the color rush jerseys, but if you're going to do it for the Lions, it's got to be all black with a little bit of blue piping.
All right, very interesting. So for those that don't know about these color rush unis, just break it down for them real quick.
It's just a contrast. It's insane. It's the way that the Bills and the Giants, that game, we'll go back to that game. If you've seen this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're shiny, they're shimmery, they are basically eye piercing. The red ones are the brightest, sharpest red that you've ever seen, and it's red head to toe. The green ones for the Jets that year, all green, head to toe. And it was like green monsters for sure. The Lions, it looks like they might be wearing silver pants. I don't understand it. If you're going to do color rush, I thought it was supposed to be all one color. It makes absolutely no sense to me. That's why I say it's got to be all blacked out. So it's an alternate jersey. It's something different. It's supposed to be fan friendly, supposed to be fun, something to talk about. I mean, it made its way into our show, and we only talk about the hardest hitting issues here. So, it's something fun for the fans.
All right, from time to time, you and I definitely have looked at the state of Detroit sports, and we're wondering, we get depressed because when we start looking at things collectively, professionally speaking, it doesn't look too good. And then on Wednesday, you get to see LeBron celebrate in Cleveland at the parade, and they just keep talking about the end of the drought, the championship drought. Now, I looked at it and I go, wait a minute, have I been celebrating lately any professional success other than the Pistons maybe emerging, some great Tiger wins, things like that? Not really. The last title was the 2008 Red Wings. That means now we're going on 8 years. And then I look to myself, I go, wow, if I look at the Pistons, Lions, Red Wings, Tigers, I don't see potential title success for the next 5 years or so. So I threw out a Twitter poll, and it's getting hot action right now at Detroit Podcast, because is Detroit sports on the pro side in a major drought? And is it going to be lasting quite a bit? Are we going to be thirsty for a minute here? Could we hit 10, 15 years before we celebrate here in Detroit another professional title?
10 or 15 years?
It's been 8 right now.
That long, hey?
It's been 2008 since the last professional title here in the state of Michigan.
So you say maybe another 7 years that we got to go without a championship. I could see it. I could see it happening.
Are we in a drought?
That being said, I think there's some bright spots. I don't think it's all doom and gloom here. I think the Pistons are on the cusp of doing something really great. I think they're on the cusp of being a very good team. So I could see them winning a championship maybe the next 5 years or so. If Ken Holland can get creative, because it doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon. If Kenny Holland can get creative, move some contracts around, get a superstar in here, I think that revitalizes the Red Wings and make them that much better, especially with a guy like a Dylan Larkin. I do believe that some of the young talent that's in Grand Rapids, next year you can count on seeing some of these guys. And Anthony Mantha, he better be on the starting roster when the puck drops at that very first game in Tampa. The Lions, no, because it's the Lions. Yeah, it's the Lions.
Dream. That's all you think about the Lions.
Uh-huh.
So it might be the Red Wings or Tigers if they make a couple moves. That's about it.
Maybe the Tigers. Right now, I know I'm a little bit more pleased with the Tigers than you are, and we'll get into the Tigers here coming up next. But I think the Tigers, they just need a couple pieces here to really be a true contender, I think, for a World Series. You just got to get into the playoffs, and you get hot at the right time. Your pitching will take care of itself. Just try to avoid the injury bug. I think that the Tigers, in maybe this season, they win a championship.
What?
You know, I firmly believe they're going to win the AL Central.
A friend of the podcast, Theo Gridiron Spite, tweeted us. He's like, I'm always optimistic. No one saw the 15 Warriors or both Eli-led Giants championships come before they happened. So he's optimistic. A lot of people, right now the poll is really hot. It's about 50-50 either way. So I'm very interested to see how the poll shakes out. But if you really look at it, it could go either way. We could go a long time because without celebrating a title if things don't go, because it's really hard to win a title. We got spoiled there late in the 90s and in the 2000s with the Wings, and the Pistons as well snuck in there in 2004, but it could be a while. So.
We're in a weird spot right now, that's for sure. Weird spot. Like no one team is super dominant or sitting on top of every other team in their respected league. So you're right, weird spot, but don't count the Tigers out, man. I think we could see a championship this year with the Tigers.
You up for a bonus question?
Sure.
All right. News made by friend of the podcast, Josh Katzenstein, is going to be leaving the great state of Michigan.
What?
Josh tweeted out some personal news. I accepted a job at NOLA News covering the Saints. Begin in a few weeks. Thrilled to go back to where I was born. So it got me to thinking, guys like Ryan Field, guys that potentially start off in Detroit or make their way to Detroit and then potentially going off to other media jobs. In talking about the market, Detroit is very interesting to cover sports because there's a lot. It's a kind of a market where you can get into a lot of things, hone your skills, but then we've seen a lot of media members kind of stop in through Detroit and then bust out and take different opportunities. Do you think media-wise, Detroit's a great market to work in sports, or do you think that more and more people are going to use Detroit as a resume builder to get the big-time job?
In my opinion, it's the only market for sports. I don't want... Me, myself, I have a hard time because I'm looking for my next break all the time. Always looking online, always looking and applying for different jobs, trying to sit there and do what I want to do in my life. And I don't want to leave Detroit. I think Detroit is probably the best and absolute best sports market there is out there.
Hands down.
So I don't want to leave. I don't want to go anywhere else. I think sometimes you have to leave a little bit and then you come back. If I ever do leave, my goal would be to loop back around and end my career in Detroit. Let's put it this way. A guy who we both, I think, agree is probably the best at what he does, local on-air radio personality, Mike Valeni, signed a massive contract with CBS. That's a big deal. And CBS was trying to get him into the New York, Philadelphia market, which is a much bigger market than the Detroit market. And he was like, no, I don't want to leave. I like it here. This is an incredible market. Detroit is probably the best market for sports. I don't care about New York. I don't care about Philadelphia. I don't care about any of those other ones. I don't care what goes on in Texas. I don't care what happens in Florida. California, go fly a kite. I don't even like the people in California. They're weird. Honestly, they are. Go hang out there. Chicago. Hate you, Chicago.
See, the interesting part of Detroit, I'm not sure on the TV side exactly the factual thing, but in the radio world, they're 12th. So Detroit is the 12th radio market in the entire country. Now, on the TV side, I know they're probably top 15, but it's an interesting scenario in that Detroit has the ability to give you what you need to cover a lot of different things: high school, college, fringe sports, professional teams, a lot of storylines to get into. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where there's still room to grow if you want to hit the big time. And really, in the end, I think Detroit might lack in terms of, the pay situation, in terms of, hey, the top jobs are probably New York, Miami, Florida, California, bigger markets and bigger opportunities. So it's very interesting in that, if you have roots here like you do, obviously you're going to want to stay. I love it here too. And you look at the sporting landscape, you go, damn, why would you want to leave? There's so much. But that's why Detroit's so fascinating. It's an interesting thing in that people from out of town that come here can definitely get a lot of experience, cover a lot of different things, but they're still the top of the line. And I'm wondering if ever Detroit will ever get to that spot where it's like a landing spot where you come here, you retire here. Because we're seeing quite a bit of an exodus lately in the news departments, weather people, sports, newspaper people. You see a lot of you could say basically a lot of turnovers happening at this point in time. So it's very interesting, and that's why I wanted to pose the question to you, in that I think Detroit is actually a very interesting market to work in, and one that you can do a lot, but also there is opportunity to take what you learn from Detroit and apply. Look at Ryan Field on a national platform, holding his own, doing national radio, great stuff at Fox Sports 1, trying to contact him. I got his email, so yeah, he's been in contact, fellow Sparty, so he knows who I am, so we're going to get him on here, hopefully. We hopefully get him on here sooner rather than later. All right, cuz, great epic round of Jock Jams. Always deliver, no doubt about it.
Appreciate it, sir. Great questions.
Stay with us.
Especially like that bonus one.
Stay with us. Doc and Jock, episode 150. Final segment, talking Detroit Tigers, right ahead. I want to tell everyone out there about DetroitSportsNation.com. They're a great website, and they've been very supportive to all the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They host all the podcasts. They have great writers that cover all the Detroit teams, all the college teams. Check out their website and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. The collaboration has been excellent, and it's helped us to continue to grow and have great guests, take phone calls. So our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has really been successful, and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. Thank you for continuing to listen and downloading our podcast across the various platforms: Podomatic, Podbase, Stitcher, iTunes, FeedBurner. Anywhere at all you can find podcasts, you can find the Detroit Sports Podcast and our plethora of shows. And definitely tune into us, check in with us regularly. We might be adding new shows, always looking to do new projects and to bring you fine audio in regards to Detroit sports. So the Tigers, 2 games versus Seattle, and they've won them both. At the time of this recording, I got a chance to watch the game on Tuesday. Monday's game was highlighted by the mammoth 460-foot plus shot by Miguel Cabrera. When you go to the ballpark and you see the straightaway fence where he hit it by the Detroit Athletic Club, you're like, oh my Lord, he absolutely destroyed the baseball in order to reach that plateau, man. Oh my goodness. And that's going to be a milestone home run probably forever. I don't think nobody's going to hit it out probably ever again if it's not Miguel Cabrera, if he can do it again. So the Tigers, again, now are on an uptick. They're playing basically the mirror of themselves. At the time of this recording, both squads, the Mariners and Tigers, are sitting at 36 wins, 35 losses. And the turnover's starting to happen. They're still tinkering. Bruce Rondon was brought up. Anibal Sanchez is going to go back into the starting rotation for a few. Daniel Norris is back. He's going to start, I believe, on Thursday.
6-man rotation. What? Does that?
So you got a situation where they're obviously ever evolving, trying to figure out a starting pitching rotation, 1 through 5, and a bullpen that can be effective. It's been effective the last couple games, but again, against basically a 500 team. Right now with the Tigers, you're basically looking at a team that's 500. They're playing 500 ball, and they're mired in a series versus the Mariners, and they're tinkering, which I like. I'm really happy. They're not standing pat. Now the final 2 moves you really got to make is what the hell are you going to do with Pelfrey? Don't ever bring back Lowe. And now you're moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those are 2 guys that you don't want on this team, especially right now. You got to find something to do with them unless you're going to DFA them. I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe try the bullpen. If you are Mark Lowe, I think you need to go down to Toledo for a little bit, work on a few things, get some things righted. They are bringing up Daniel Norris. Expect good things out of him. It's been kind of an up and down mixed bag when he's been in Toledo. I was looking at his stats in Toledo the other day, and it's some good, some bad. This guy came on last year, looked really good in a couple starts. Next thing you know, didn't look so good. It's been a very up and down career as a Tiger for Daniel Norris. Hurts his back before the season even starts. In Toledo, kind of toiling away a little bit. Ends up getting a few things righted, and then again, more of this up and down stuff. Looks like a buoy floating out there in the middle of the ocean. I'm expecting Daniel Norris to make more of an impact than Matt Boyd did. Matt Boyd struggled a lot. I don't know why the Tigers are pulling Anibal Sanchez out of the bullpen. The other night when he came on, I believe it was in the 12th inning, sitting there watching the game, trying not to fall asleep. I had toothpicks in my eyes, sitting there trying to keep him propped up. Sanchez came out. I was like, I feel confident in him. Like, I don't feel nervous, worried. I felt like he was going to do the job. He was going to get it done. He looks like he's dialed in that mode of being a bullpen pitcher. So why are you going to mess with him now? Let him get righted. Let him keep doing what he's doing. He's helped solidify part of that bullpen. You know, he's your long relief guy. It was great when Matt Boyd was sitting there struggling to give you 4 or 5 innings. You just go to Anibal and he'll give you 2 or 3, and it's no problem. You're going to pull him back out. You're going to put him into the starting rotation. Hopefully it works out. I don't know. I like Daniel Norris being up. I think that can help this team. If you had to, how would you sit there and how would you set the starting rotation up?
See, the problem with Daniel Norris is I only expect him to be inconsistent. I mean, remember, this is a guy that is coming off of some serious medical issues. He's kind of turning it around at AAA, but now you come up to the big leagues again, you're going to need some time, and I don't know if he's going to be given that time or if he has a chance to kind of have 5, 10, 15 starts.
But do you expect him to be better than Pelfrey? I do. Here's the thing. I would get Pelfrey out.
Exactly.
If Anibal looks good in his start on Saturday, he's your 4th starter. You already know what your top 3 are. Any combination you want to mix them up. Fulmer, Zimmerman, Verlander, however you want to sit there and shake them up. Those are your top 3. Those are your studs. All right, Anibal could be your 4th if he looks good on Saturday. If he looks good on Saturday. I'm going to say it again. If he looks good on Saturday. Daniel Norris, you're your 5th starter. Get Pelfrey out of there. All right? He looks so bad when he's on the mound. And everybody wants to say, oh, he's not getting the run support. He's not getting the run support. He's not putting them in a position to win. He's not. He doesn't give you a legit option. He taxes that bullpen. That bullpen gets put under so much distress because Pelfrey can't sit there and get through 5 innings cleanly. It's bad.
And the hits that versus Seattle they were just monstrous shots. Like, it was like batting practice is how it's being described. It was bad. So, yeah, I mean, do you think Anibal Sanchez can go 4 or 5 innings consistently? I mean, we need him to go more because you're going to end up taxing your bullpen. Now, in the playoffs, you can shorten it.
I need him to give you 6, at least 6.
You can give him maybe 4 to 5, but his role, you could see, is way better suited to be in the bullpen.
So would you do this then? Let me ask you this. Would you do this? Because you got a guy who has taken the reins by the horn and has seized the opportunity and has looked good.
Shane Green?
Yes. Would you move him into your 4th spot?
I think he solidified his spot in the bullpen. He's done well. He's a guy that you need there. See, the problem is you could make this question easier if you had a bullpen that could do something. Now, the problem is, though, if you plug one hole, you open up 3 more. And I think the hole is bigger, and the priority is more looked to be problematic in the bullpen. So you leave Green there. So the options you're going to have to go with is really hope that Daniel Norris and Sanchez can figure it out and do some things. And that could be mitigated by maybe when JD returns in a month or so, that offense, if Upton can stick with it, you keep giving him 4 or 5 runs. But you can't even expect that now because the Tigers gave Boyd several runs and he couldn't handle it. You get out to 4 or 5 run leads and you do well, you expect to win the game. It's never enough. Even in the game I went to on Tuesday, K-Rod's stuff is hittable. Their stuff right now in the bullpen is hittable. That's the problem. All the guys are crafty, and they're counting on their stuff to not get hit all over the place, but their stuff is hittable.
Well, K-Rod's not going to dial it up to 95. He doesn't have that pitch anymore.
Right.
He
can't dial up to 95.
He's going to top out at like 92 miles an hour.
Right.
So, I mean, I think I seen him throw a fastball at 88 the other night, and I was like, whoa, so, not good. That's like Verlander's changeup.
I'm excited to see they brought up Bruce Rondon. He's looked good, effortless, flawless stuff. So if he can go in there, maybe if Bruce Rondon can solidify the bullpen, then maybe you can also consider throwing Shane Green in the mix to come back and be a starter because you can't right now, you can't have the bullpen be as ineffective as they were last week. 9.75 ERA for a bullpen. Get the hell out of here. You can't win like that. It's making Brett Ausmus's job really a nightmare because any matchup he goes to, even if you go, okay, I'm going to bring in Blaine Hardy. It's a favorable matchup. He goes in there, he shits the bed. It's like every time Brad Ausmus tries to use a favorable matchup, it doesn't work because the talent's not there. That's the problem, is that we're trying to basically go with the theory of let's just hope that one of these guys steps it up. And in the end, you might have to say it. Kyle Ryan, Hardy, Buck Farmer, Pelfrey, Lowe, that collection of talent just should be washed away and no longer utilized, in essence.
Yeah, but you can't do that at this point in the season.
You go with maybe a situation, instead of giving them an inning, you give them situations. You got
Right.
a couple of those guys. You don't get to pitch an inning. You get to pitch to, when there's one guy out and a guy who sucks versus right-handers. Go ahead, Lowe, try it. One batter, you're out. That's unfortunately what he's basically going to be suited for. I cannot believe Lowe's fallen off this much. He wasn't this bad last year. He's fallen off. It's confidence.
You think it's confidence? I think it might be an injury that maybe he's not letting on about, or maybe he doesn't even know about. I mean, his fastball has dipped almost 4 miles an hour.
Man,
that's a huge fall off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like what we were talking about with K-Rod. When you're sitting there and you can dial it up to 96, that's a respectable fastball. When your fastball's coming in at like 92, 90, 91, 88, that's not respectable. I mean, guys can hit that. That's a changeup for some of these guys. I like what Bruce Rondon has done. He's looked good when he's been up. I think this team, what they have to do is they have to figure out who their fourth and fifth starters are. And then you can tread some water until you get to trade deadline day. When you get to the trade deadline, I know Al Avila has come out and said, hey, we're not looking to make a splash. We're not looking to do this. We're not looking to do that. If they can sit there and they can solidify who their fourth and fifth starter is, and they get that back into their bullpen kind of tied down, you can sit there, you can go out and you can get a bullpen arm for this team. I think that's probably the most pressing issue they need so they can make a playoff push, is they've got to sit there and they've got to solidify this bullpen. If you go out and you get a guy for the seventh inning, seventh inning arm, maybe, if Bruce Rondon's going to be your eighth inning guy, if there's a closer out there, there's been talk about possibly looking to get Andrew Miller. You go out there, you pick up Andrew Miller. I think he's got like 3 years and $12 million a year on his deal still. Just off the top of my head, I can double check my figures here, but it's one of those things where you go out, you can get a guy like that. You can sit there and you can tinker with that bullpen a little bit more. You got more bullets for it, and you can sit there and you can just keep shooting then. So if I'm Al Avila, I need to figure out my fourth and fifth starter, tread some water, and then from there, try to address that bullpen.
Right now, we're on the verge, potentially, of a watershed series. I think that the Tigers are going to have an okay run versus Seattle. You've already won the first 2 games in the series. Now, you're going to go and have a series at home versus Cleveland. And it's going to be against a team that obviously you haven't won against this year. If they look horrible, if they have these situations where certain matchups occur, because Brad Ausmus, again, is making these decisions that are going against him in terms of favorable matchups. I mean, the obvious situation is the whole Hosmer situation in Kansas City. You have the situation when to bunt, when not to bunt, when to use guys like Victor Martinez and take them in and out of the games. Those are situations that he's making decisions that a lot of people question. If he has a terrible series versus Cleveland, it might be one of those things where the amount of heat that he gets goes way back up because it's an important series right now. Seattle, decent team, but you see that they're beatable. Cleveland, you got to go out there and do some damage. You got to at least win 2 of 3 in order to keep the current status for Brad Ausmus. People are nitpicking. They're definitely looking at his decisions, but his seat's not on fire. You get swept by Cleveland, you could look at his seat getting hot again, maybe even hotter than it has been at any point in the season.
Andrew Miller's got about 2.5 years left, $9 million per season. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I think that they have the possibility to sweep the Mariners here. Watch me say that and watch Fulmer just self-destruct on Wednesday. I can see them wrapping this series up, no problem. But you're right. When they go to face Cleveland, they've got to sit there and take care of business.
Take care of business at home.
You got to win at least 2 of 3. I would love for them to sweep Cleveland. It gets you right back into the talk about who's going to sit there and jockey for first place in the AL.
And some positives. At least we can say some positives. The Tigers, in their last stretch, I think before this recording, they've won 14 of their last 17 games at home. And
14 of 16.
14 of 16. So they've done what they've needed to do at Comerica Park. And so with this stretch at home, take care of business, continue that success. It's fun because the way the crowd went on Tuesday was they were pretty much silent because it was a pitching duel. So it was really quiet. You can look around, talk, hear all the conversation behind you to the left of you. But once the hits started coming, really Kinsler's a lightning rod. When he gets on base, the crowd is into it. He's become a fan favorite.
Which guy?
Ian Kinsler.
Wait, who? Isn't that the same guy you want to trade away?
Happy birthday to him. He celebrated a birthday on Wednesday. My nephew picked up on that. He likes to look at the birthdays. So happy birthday to Ian Kinsler, 34, turned on Wednesday. The crowd was really into it. The crowd really got excited in the 8th inning when the bases were loaded. Aviles got his first major hit with the Detroit Tigers. Good to him. Got off the schneid.
Dude, that guy's got an amazing lineup. His beard is incredible.
Psh, whatever, dude. All I know is that
Every time he comes to the plate, he's got like the worst. I can't say.
If you're going down to
there's too much movement when he's in the batter's box.
if you go to
But he's got a
Comerica,
great lineup.
if you go down to Comerica Park, check out the Detroit Tigers batting averages. They're not good. I think that's why the girl behind me was like, "What's a good batting average?" Because she was looking at 197 for McCann, like 240 for Maben. Everybody except for Miguel Cabrera was way south of 300.
What about Victor?
Oh, Victor probably was too. I don't know. I would
He's like 350.
exactly. So maybe because it was so high, it was an outlier. But everyone else wasn't that good. It wasn't that good.
That's how most ball clubs are put together, though. You usually have 2 or 3 guys who can mash the ball, and everybody else is kind of eh.
Yeah, she's like, "What's a good batting average?" And the guy paused. He was like, "Oh, I just want to turn around and be like 3 out of 10. If you go up there 10 times, you hit 3. Stop asking stupid questions. Enjoy the game, damn it. Take pictures. Much better." That was the crowd I had. It was good. It was fun, actually. I'm not gonna lie. It was fun to get down to Comerica Park, and it was the best weather. I was looking at the weather for the last 4 days. What kind of weather it's gonna be? It was absolutely awesome. I had a good time. Comerica Park was fun, and the seats were great. First row, upper deck, $20.
Can't beat that.
It was fun, dude.
Can't beat that at all.
I want to go down a little bit more. So
It's always a good time.
yes,
at
sir. What do you
Comerica.
got going on the rest of the week, sir?
Working crazy split shifts at work, so I'll be getting up early,
The
doing
splits.
things, and
Doing the
then
splits.
going back to work later in the afternoon. Ties up my entire day. It's the worst.
Yes, sir.
But that's about it.
150 down. Hopefully another 150 to go. Look for big things happening at this very fine podcast network. Thank you again for all your support. Tweet Salty to @Detroit Podcast. Let's get a chance to meet some of you fans and give you a VIP experience. Meet one of your heroes, the Detroit Tigers, Jared Saltalamacchia. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. See y'all next week. Looking forward to it.
Go Tigers.
Sorry, Detroit. It didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. They talk to me, they tell me things that I will do, they show me things